What's going to happen, because it's been off the radar of most people, Albanese was hoping to just kind of get this through on the vibe, on the goodwill. And Australians are full of goodwill towards Indigenous and all Australians, all other Australians. That's the Australian character. So they're hoping to trade off that and insert something into the Constitution which will be destructive, incredibly destructive. As Jacinta Price has said, does it mean if we have something in the Constitution, a voice in the Constitution to help disadvantaged Australians, something in the Constitution for all time, does that mean white Australia intends for Indigenous Australians to be disadvantaged for all time? And that's a great insight. She's full of great insights, and she's come out strongly against Noel Pearson's incredibly offensive rhetoric. But I had to laugh, Rita and James, at this particular response from Marcia Langton. It's astonishing how those who've been pushing the voice have suddenly turned very strident indeed. She's come out.
Marcia Langton
said, if you vote no, you won't get a welcome to country again. Well, Marcia, I hope you live up to that promise. Thank you, Rita.
Well, yes, your terms are acceptable, Marcia. Thank you very much. As the kids say, don't threaten me with a good time. Noel Pearson also came out with a comment about, if this is voted down, then you won't be... He's going to fall silent.
Hang on, which side is he campaigning for now?
The no vote. Another endorsement for the no vote.
But let's talk about the welcome to country thing, because this is really important, because I think I'm sensing a lot of Australians, you go on an aeroplane now, you go to this, a lot of Australians, you get the silent groan, you get the roll of the eyes. I think corporate Australia has forced what was originally a well-intentioned, well-meaning idea, this kind of acknowledgement, welcome, whatever you want to call it, to country. But personally, I am fed up of being welcomed to my own country. Marcia Langton, I hate to tell it, this is not your country. It's not my country, it's our country. We share it. And it's nice of you to say welcome to country occasionally at a symbolic event, but not every single day and every single place I go. I'm kind of tired of it, Rita.
The sentiment against this is enormous, and people are too scared to voice what many believe, because God forbid you should actually say that I feel as entitled to call this land my country as anybody else. And again, I talked about the migrant community, me as a migrant, James as a migrant. This notion of always was, always will be, that's essentially a PC way of saying go back to where you came from.
Yeah, go back to where you came from, exactly.
Ugly sentiment, and I can tell you a lot of migrants receive it that way. So if the Liberals can find their backbone and come out emphatically against this, not apologetically, not, well, we're sorry to have to oppose it, but for the good of the country we have to. No, to come out unapologetically and say, this is divisive, this is destructive, we will not have any form of this in this country, I think they will get enormous support. But you cannot have the likes of Susan Ley doing that job that she did when the opposition was announced. That was
pathetic. I agree.
Okay, thank you.
And that was utterly pathetic. And those bedwetting libs are in the absolute minority. I have to say, I'm going to say it, I'm going to congratulate Julian Leeser, because he's been dedicated and passionate about this topic and put in more work probably than anyone else in Australia. And he's recognised, ultimately, the reality of what is being offered by Albanese is not acceptable. So hats off to Julian Leeser for accepting that.
Oh, okay. No, because he wants this in the Constitution.
That's fine, but no
not in
is
the current form.
When you get into that referendum booth, it's either yes or it's no. All the other James, all the other little bits and pieces go by the by. It's a yes or a no, and I believe the majority of Australian people in the majority of Australian states will say no, and it will be emphatic.
Well, what we're going to see very shortly, and there's already been signs of it, we are going to see a PR campaign like you have never seen before. The same-sex marriage plebiscite will have nothing on this. We already know the AFL, NRL, all the sporting codes are going to back the Yes campaign. Today on the front page of the papers is that there's going to be a push to get every Indigenous athlete to back this, from Kathy Freeman to Adam Goods to Ash Barty. We don't know yet.
Well,
And this is going to backfire.
All I can do is you're silly if you do.
Rita, this is going to backfire. This will be just like the Republic, where all the lovies, all the bien-pensants thought that this thing was going to go through, and it didn't because people saw through this as, a constitutional change that they didn't want. It is changing the Constitution. That point needs to be hammered over and over again. And when you talk about the arguments, and the first principles, that is what Peter Dutton and the opposition and everybody who is opposed to this needs to keep hitting constitutional change. And that's what this is about.
And that's a no, and that will be a no from the people of Australia.